Thank you all for joining me this afternoon. I'm delighted to be joined today. Please come over, ladies, right over here I've got Asa Smith, Deputy Director of the Department of Human Services with me, and delighted to also be joined by Tanya Williams, who is the Director of the Division of Child Care and Early Education at the Department of Human Services. And I appreciate your leadership and joining me for this announcement today. Let me start out by saying that early childhood education is a building block for success in life. I think that's been recognized across the spectrum of those that have studied how you improve education and opportunities in life. We currently in Arkansas have 5,300 children statewide in pre-K and after-school summer programs. Currently, we have a little over 2,000, actually 2,056 eligible children that are on the waiting list for these same vouchers and services. To be eligible to receive this benefit, the household must have at least one child that is age 12 or under. Secondly, they must have a household income of less than 200% of the federal poverty level. It's going for that low income family that's struggling. And then thirdly, they have to have one parent that is working at least 30 hours a week or in education or training. And so I'm pleased to announce, with that background as to the 2,000 waiting list that we have, that thanks to President Trump and the United States Congress, we have $26 million in new federal funding coming to Arkansas to support this early childhood education initiative. This is sufficient to cover an additional 3,800 young children. And if you remember, our waiting list was 2,086. And so our plan is to completely eliminate the waiting list with this additional federal funding. This came as somewhat of a surprise to us, but it's a welcome surprise. And this funding was in the 2-year budget deal that was worked out with the United States Congress and passed, that had this money nationally that was available for early childhood education. And of the amount that's going nationally, we have this amount, $26 million, that is coming to Arkansas that will allow us to eliminate the waiting list for those that are waiting to receive this additional service. 10% of the funding will be used for improving quality in the early childhood education programs. And that's an important component of what we want to do. Finally, let me just say in this announcement that there is certainly a benefit to the child that receives this exposure to early childhood education, and hopefully it'll lay a foundation for success in school and in life. But there's also a benefit to Arkansas both educationally and economically. You think about those families that are struggling, making less than 200% of the federal poverty level. They're trying either to get to school or get to work, get the training that they need, but child care is always an issue. And so this gives them the ability to say, we've got this voucher, this opportunity to have early childhood education, a slot for our youngster, and it allows them to get their education, to get their training, to move up that omnipresent economic ladder, or to simply to get to work and to fulfill the work that they know is important for supporting their family. And so with that, I'm delighted to make this announcement today. I want to thanks for the guidance of Tanya and Asa as we develop this initiative. And with that, we're happy to turn it over for any questions.
You said it will it cover all the expenses for a child that's going to pre-K? What are the expenses that it will cover for those children?
So it can pay for teaching staff. That's certainly a big one. It can pay for their training. But it basically is just like if you were a paying parent writing a check to pay for child care. This goes to the facility to pay for that child care for a period of time, as long as the family is eligible.
Will the vouchers be sufficient to cover the cost of the child care, or is there a gap? Or do we know? It depends.
Yes, it should cover. There could be some areas where there might be a gap, but I'm not aware of any at this point. But we certainly will be looking at that. But it should cover the cost of the child care for children.
Governor, you mentioned the 10% for improving equality. What exactly is that?
Well, there's some flexibility there, but it'll be for professional training of the child care workers to enhance their skills, the educational component of what they're doing in their child care services.
Will it involve hiring any new employees under your division?
I like it. Well, you just see how quick that was?
So, yesterday 2,000 kids were on a waiting list, and now how quickly are these kids basically getting pre-kindergarten education? Is that?
They're getting a voucher for child care services. There was a waiting list of 2,000 that's currently, with this $26 million, we'll be able to completely eliminate that waiting list and provide those services to those 2,000 families that are in need of that service.
Is this just 4-year-olds or 3-year-olds?
So this is not specific to pre-K. So this covers if you have a child in the home between the ages of 0 to 12, then you'll be eligible to apply for a voucher.
Forgive me, but whenever you said when it will be in effect, I mean, is it going to be immediately or?
We actually have received the notice of award, so the funding is available. We actually have some unfunded appropriation in our division, so we can absolutely begin working on this immediately.
So when will the first child be taken off the waiting list?
Maybe today, when I get back to the office. Yes, I mean, it is an immediate.
I have another question. It's probably for DHS. I know that you made a lot of changes in your child care rules and things like that, and raised the bar for the directors of these daycares, child care centers. They have to have a bachelor's degree. Are you going to change the requirements at any time for the pre-K teachers to require that education?
So currently in our Arkansas Better Chance or pre-K program, teachers have to have a bachelor's degree, and if they have subsequent classrooms, if they're operating multiple classrooms, they can drop to an associate's degree, but they do have degree requirements for pre-K.
And what about those that aren't in the Arkansas?
Better Chance program. Those programs have other criteria, and we have no plans to raise those requirements based on this funding. We certainly will support those efforts, but we're not planning on raising any standards for that.
Governor, off topic, President Trump raised the issue of border security. Wanted to get an update on where Arkansas is in terms of providing. I know we had promised to provide troops. Where are we in that whole process?
I spoke with General Berry today, and he had indicated that we have deployed our men and women and support staff to the border. So we're currently in a deployment status, and I'm waiting for specific details as to the number, but we have both equipment and service men and women who are down there on the border representing Arkansas National Guard in response to the President Trump's request. I might add that President Trump did invite me and a handful of other governors to join him in the White House next Monday. And so I'll be joining him, and the specific topic is the border security efforts, and it's his way of expressing appreciation for the support of the Arkansas National Guard, but it's also an opportunity to have a broader discussion with border state governors and with the President on our border security efforts, and I'm looking forward to joining President Trump in Washington, D.C. With that invitation on next Monday evening.
Has the administration talked to you about the possibility of housing children at at Little Rock Air Force Base?
That will be another topic of my conversation with President Trump. I've not had any conversations directly with them. I've read the media reports that Attorney General Sessions had that initiative, and Little Rock Air Force Base is on the list to be considered for it. So I'm anxious to hear more details on that and get information. It's directed, my understanding, at unaccompanied minors as they come across the border, and I think it's the administration's way of making sure children are protected and properly addressed, but also to hopefully curtail any misuse of that system as we see the illegal movement across the border have a spike in the last couple months. All right, with that, thank you all for joining us today, and have a good rest of the day.